Of Department of Pathology and Neurology, I welcome you to this month CPC. CPC is in two aspects very important as far as I think. One is the approach to the diagnosis and other is the audit of our day-to-day working. And most of the time the concerned department, they invite very eminent speakers who are best in their field. And this for this CPC, Department of Neurology, they have invited Professor Vijay Sardana. He is Professor and Head Department of Neurology and Chairman of Medical Education Unit in Government Medical College, Kota, Rajasthan. He did his MBBS from Dr. S.N. Medical College, Jodhpur in 1986, then MD Medicine from the same college. Then he did his neurology from PGI Chandigarh, and in between he was senior resident for some time here, 8 months, and assistant professor ad hoc for 1.5 years here. He has many awards and publications to his credit. He is member of various these boards and a lot of awards. He has a long list of achievement, but due to the time constraints, I cannot read all. I invite Dr. Sardana to discuss the case. You have 30 to 35 minutes, and in between you can take for radiology if you want, you can take the help of our radiologist. After that we will have 5 minutes discussion and then pathology. I invite
Thank you, Professor Sharma. I have the proud privilege of discussing this case today in CPC. For which I am grateful to the organizers. Today's case is a 40-year-old male who is working in USA for the last 20 years as ground staff supervisor in an airport. He presented to All India Institute of Medical Sciences with history of recurrent headache for the last 5 years, recurrent focal and secondary generalized seizures for the last 5 years, cognitive decline for the last 4.5 years, weakness of right lower limb for the last 3 years, acute cord syndrome, in which he had complete loss of sensory motor function below waist with bladder and bowel function 15 months ago, and difficulty in maintaining posture while sitting, and recent weakness of left upper limb for the last 25 days. Next please. The illness started almost 5 years ago when he started having headache. Headaches used to be infrequent initially, 1 to 3 per month. Later on they became almost daily. Initially they used to be hemicranial and later on they became global. Many times a day, 2 to 3 times a day. Pulsatile, intermittent, lasting for about 1 to 2 hours. They used to be so severe that they affected his work. They used to be temporarily relieved with the medications. Over the next 2 to 3 years, the frequency of headache slightly decreased. And for the last 3 years, they are quite infrequent, almost 1 to 2 per month, and the severity is also quite less. Almost same time he started having focal lip twitching and a hemifacial twitching on the right side, lasting for a few minutes, and many times it used to be associated with speaking difficulty. Many times he was found unconscious for many minutes, details of which are not, eyewitness account is not available. Some of the episodes used to be associated with incontinence. There was no focal repetitive movement, tonic posturing or loss of consciousness. Of late, that means those episodes persisted frequently during first one year or so, and then frequency reduced, and for the last 3 years, there is no episode of loss of consciousness or focal twitching. Almost same time, he also started having transient visual obscuration, in which a cutter-like diminution of vision used to appear, lasting for about seconds to few minutes, and the frequency used to be variable. And over the next few months, these episodes were self-elevated and stopped on their own. Next please. Initially, he was diagnosed to have vascular headache, then TIA, he was treated with analgesis. topiramate was later added, aspirin and statins were added, thinking of DIA. The headache gradually worsened. Frequency of unwitnessed fall also worsened, and the twitching movement gradually decreased. Later he received sodium valproate injections, but there were no relief of symptoms. Almost 4 years ago, his memory started deteriorating. He used to forget complex sequences and started having difficulty in his day-to-day work at his workplace. He had difficulty in naming subsequently. He could not remember code words, code figures of his locker, his bank account numbers. And gradually he had loss of interest in activities of daily living and loss of self-care in the next 2 years. The very same year, because of his decreased efficiency, he was fired from the job. He had increased irritability, increased drowsiness and lethargy subsequently over the next about 6-7 months, and it kept on fluctuating. For that, he was evaluated in the US, his spinal tap was done, and a provisional diagnosis of chronic meningitis fungal was made. His CSF showed 44 cells, polymorph 18, lymphocytes 32, monocytes 50, glucose 26, and protein 330. We do not have simultaneous glucose concentration values. There were no atypical cells. The CD4 CD8 ratio was 1.2, which was normal. The viral markers were negative. CSF cryptococcal antigen was done negative. Gene exploit was negative for tuberculosis, but he showed IgG positive for coccidiomycosis. Next, please. Thinking of fungal meningitis, he was started with fluconazole. His lymph node biopsy was also done, but we do not have the report of that lymph node biopsy. He continued to have cognitive decline, worsened. There was no improvement in any symptom. He also had new onset slurring of speech. He continued fluconazole for about 2 years. Next 2 years from onset of illness, he had new onset weakness of the right lower limb, which was sudden in onset, new onset dysarthria, worsening of dysarthria, worsening of lethargy and drowsiness, and new onset urgency of maturation and precipitancy. He also started swaying while walking, which others used to tell him that we are walking like a drunken man. After 2 years, he stopped fluconazole therapy, and then ATT was started, which he continued for the next 5 months. And because of development of ATT hepatitis and no improvement in symptoms, the ATT was stopped. There was no improvement in symptoms during or after the treatment. Next, please. At year and 3 months ago, he developed sudden onset Cort syndrome in form of sensory motor affection below L1, paraparesis, with bowel and bladder dysfunction. He was again evaluated this time. CSF was done. It showed 40 cells, lymphocytic predominance, elevated protein of 300, low glucose, cytology was negative. CSF-A was slightly mildly elevated. It was 9.6. CSF absolute CD4 count was 258. We do not have CD4-CD8 ratio. And serum ACE was normal. This time imaging was repeated, which will be discussed by radiologically. This time patient also underwent a brain biopsy in USA hospital, and the report was inconclusive. It didn't add to the diagnosis or any workup. This time he was given a therapy of pulse therapy of steroid, which was followed by oral prednisolone, but he stopped oral prednisolone after 2 weeks of therapy. Next 1 year, he had sequelae of paraparesis, which minimally, if at all, improved with flexor spasticity, pain in lower limb. The behavioral issue continued, the cognitive decline continued. He had worsening of dysarthria, but the upper limb power was by and large preserved till this time. Minimal hand grip weakness was there. Preserved axial muscle power for next 1 year till July 2016, when there was a worsening of truncal weakness when he used to sit. It was difficult for him to maintain his posture while sitting, and he also had increase in the drowsiness and lethargy, and his attention span became even poorer. Almost at the same time, he developed weakness of the left upper limb. He used to have difficulty in holding spoon and eating with the left hand, doing routine things with the left hand. However, his right hand power was relatively preserved. His appetite was slightly decreased for the last 2 years, but then there was no weight loss. Next, please. There was no history of diminution of vision, diplopia. There was no history of facial asymmetry. There was no history of difficulty in deglutition or drooping of the shoulder. He did not have constitutional symptoms. There was no history of prolonged fever, night sweats, cough. No history of significant weight loss, no abnormal swelling or nodule, no photosensitivity, rash, arthritis, edema, oral or genital ulcers. There was no history of hematuria, oliguria, froth in the urine, no weight loss, significant weight loss despite some loss of appetite, no GI symptoms, no transfusion or surgeries in the past, no allergic predisposition or bleeding tendency. He did not have any history of contact to a person with pulmonary TB. There was no history of tuberculosis in himself in the past. He was not a known hypertensive, no history of diabetes, no history of heart disease in the past, and there was no history of drug abuse. There was no history of family history of a similar illness. Next, please. When examined, his vitals were normal, pulse was normal, all peripheral pulses were palpable. His respiratory rate and temperature were within normal limit. General physical examination showed no pallor, icterus, cyanosis, clubbing, lymphadenopathy or edema. He had mild contracture of bilateral both tendo Achilles and bilateral hamstrings, especially the flexure contracture. There were no photosensitive rash, lymphadenopathy, arthritis, joint swelling or abnormal swelling anywhere else. His higher mental function, he was irritable, his orientation was poor, he had non-fluent aphasia, his comprehension was poor, drawing, writing was impaired, his recent memory was impaired, remote memory was intact, his immediate memory was also impaired. The other cognitive functions were difficult to test due to poor comprehension and cooperation and attention span. There were no delusions or hallucinations. Cranial nerves, pupil normal size and reaction, the fundus was normal, this was normal appearing. He had bilateral upper motor neuron type of facial paralysis. There was tongue loss of dexterity and spastic. All other cranial nerves were normal on examination. Motor system, his bulk, there was generalized thinning of limbs, especially the lower limb, hamstrings, quadriceps, EDBs, all had thinning. His tone was moderately increased with spasticity in both lower limb of grade 3 and spasticity of grade 2 in the upper limb, which was more on the left side than the right, both upper as well as lower limb. Next, please. His power was 3 by 5 in the left and 4 by 5 in the right side, and distally bilateral. Left was more than right. Hand grip was weak. Right 75% and left 25%. This was about upper limb, and lower limb power was 2 by 5. There was truncal weakness. There were no abnormal movements. His all deep tendon jerks were accelerated, left more than right. His sensory, all modalities were grossly diminished below the lower umbilicus. There were no cerebral signs in upper limb which could be tested properly, especially the right upper limb. The skull and spine was normal. There was no carotid fluid. Next, please. He was investigated at AIMS. His hemoglobin was normal with total counts of 9,410. Platelets were normal. ESR was 22. His fear was normocytic normochromic. RFT and liver function tests were both normal within normal limit. Electrolytes were within normal limits. His ANA, anti-DS DNA, APLA and ANCA were negative. ENA panel was done, which was negative. RA factor was positive with a value of Friedel 64. Serum ACE was 9. Serum CRP was 3.6 within normal range. TSH was also within normal limit. His prothrombotic workup was negative. Viral markers were done, which were also negative. Next, please. His CSF was done here. This time it did not show any cellular response. Protein was 10. Sugar was 46 with the RBS of 108. That makes about 42% of the blood sugar. Gram stain and fungal stain were negative. He also underwent chronic meningitis workup, cryptococcal antigen, and gene expert were negative. CSF culture, including fungal culture, were also negative. The cytology was negative for any atypical cell. CSF A's was not detected this time. He also underwent transbronchial FNAC of mediastinal lymph node. There were no FV seen in the SPA and the gene expert was negative. There were certain more diagnostic investigations. Neuroimaging will be discussed by radiologically. CCT chest and abdomen were done this time, and the brain and meningeal biopsy was also carried out. Now I request our radiology to assist there.
Good afternoon. We had multiple imaging from US to review, and we had done our own MRI also. This was in 2012. This showed extensive leptomeningeal enhancement, especially in the posterior fossa. You can see along the cerebellar folia enhancement, around the brainstem, even in the ciliary system, even in the convexity also are enhancing, and with few flat changes in the palms. Otherwise, the brain parenchyma was unremarkable. No intraparenchymal enhancement was there. Primarily, the disease was limited to many years. And subsequent imaging the next year, it showed worsening of this meningeal disease in the form of increased enhancement, and also some periventricular white matter changes were seen, and not shown here that pontine areas of hyperintensities were also increasing. Subsequent imaging at 2014 shows somewhat some relenting in the extent of this enhancement. It has decreased obviously, especially around the brainstem, and some more sulci are visible here. And remarkably, this SW imaging showed some prominent vessels. I can't call straight away microhemorrhages. These probably prominent veins standing out. Otherwise, this meningeal extent of meningeal enhancement was decreased. This 2015 imaging, it showed what extensive parenchymal changes. The previously seen periventricular white matter changes had increased, and this meningeal enhancement has come again, and there was some area of cavitation in the deep white matter also. At the same time, there was a spinal imaging done. It didn't show much, it didn't show any abnormality. No obvious abnormality, neither enhancement was seen. And this is our imaging. When we imaged, the patient had these parenchymal lesions have quite progressed. Even there was a thalamic lesion, this one was new. And this enhancement has, again, it has more florid enhancement, leptomeningeal enhancement. And there is pachymeningeal thickening also. We may not attach much importance with the fact that patient had undergone a surgery, biopsy. So pachymeningeal enhancement, leptomeningeal enhancement, extensive parenchymal changes, and some cavitation, even a new thalamic lesion. And remarkably, these SWA images showed microhemorrhages in the deep cerebellum as well as in the subcortical region. And you can see these corkscrew-type vessels. They actually represent veins, medullary veins. They are standing out. They are not normal, and maybe they are denoting some vasculitic process going on. So, and he had some systemic other extra CNS abnormalities also in the form of petrobrotian lymph nodes, aortocaval lymph nodes, mediastinal lymph nodes. This was seen as early as in 2012 imaging also. Left hilum is prominent. There was a subcutaneous node also. To some of the findings, the extensive leptomeningeal enhancement in the 2012-13 imaging also, which reduced slightly in 2014. Only to recur in the 2015 and 16 imaging, with extensive parenchymal lesions also in the form of cavitations and periventricular white matter changes. Spine imaging was unremarkable, and significantly there were some mediastinal and retroperitoneal nodes. Some of them were calcified. Okay, that sums up the findings. Thank you.
Joseph has nicely summarized the radiological findings in the brain and elsewhere also. So if we want to summarize the case now, If we want to have summary of the case, here we have a 40-year-old male with a disease of 5 years duration, who is immunocompetent, has got multifocal deficit involving cortex, meninges, spinal cord, optic nerve, with or without raised ICP. His presentation is like chronic meningitis with vasculitis. He has cumulative and progressive deficit despite all sorts of treatment. There was no response to antifungal or antitubercular. Next please. CSF showed increased cells, increased protein with low sugar. There was one report of coccidioidomycosis IgG positive. There was one report of CSF ACE which was slightly elevated. Imaging findings showed leptomeningeal and subsequently pachymeningeal enhancement with infarcts and retroperitoneal and mediastinal lymph node. His infective workup was negative except one report of coccidioidomycosis and IgG which was positive. His vasculitic workup negative except one report of CSF ACE elevation. Systemic clue, there was no systemic clinical clue. But then, of course, he had retroperitoneal lymphadenopathy and mediastinal lymphadenopathy on investigation. Next, please. He had several diagnoses entertained so far, ranging from vascular headache, subsequently TIA, seizures, fungal meningitis, and tubercular meningitis. Next, please. He received analgesics, topiramate, sodium valproate, aspirin, oral fluconazole, ATT, pulse steroid, and oral prednisolone for 2 weeks. Next, please. If we want to approach a case, as always in neurology, we start with 3 questions to be answered. Is there a lesion? Where is the lesion? And what is the lesion? Next, please. First question, we have enough evidence of lesions, which is self-evident. Second question, where is the lesion? Headache would indicate involvement of the meninges and blood vessels or both. TBOs, it might indicate raised ICP or papilledema. It may indicate the involvement of the optic nerve, optic neuropathy. Seizures indicate involvement of the cerebral cortex. Higher mental function deteriorate. At least we have evidence of the frontal lobe historically and median temporal lobe. Swaying might indicate cerebellar involvement or its connection in the brainstem, and paraparesis indicates involvement of the spinal cord. Next, please. Now, what is the lesion? If we want to have totality of the picture, then the syndromic diagnosis would be inflammatory meningitis with vasculitis, and clinically there being no clue of the etiology. Next, please. If we want to have etiology, such a syndrome can be produced by host variety of almost anything which can affect central nervous system. Chronically can have this. You can see the list of infectious agents which includes viral, bacterial as well as fungal agents, non-infectious diseases, autoimmune diseases, carcinomatous meningitis, parameningeal infection can also give rise to this kind of presentation. But if we want to zoom in on etiologies relevant to this case, next slide, then this process is inflammatory process with vasculitis, infections, collagen disorders, systemic vasculitis with CNS involvement, primary angiitis of the CNS, and lymphoma. All these things can cause this kind of presentation. Let us discuss them one by one. Next, please. The TBM looks unlikely in this case because patient had too long a history before the ATT was started. Now almost 2 years, 2.5 years. And this is not the usual case in TBM. Patients normally do worsen if they have TBM, if they are untreated. There was no response to ATT for about 5 months. CSF gene export was negative twice. It has got 99% specificity. We can be sure that it was not there. Transbronchial FNAC gene export was also negative and there was no AFP found. So it looks that TBM is less likely, unlikely in this patient. Next, please. The cryptococcal meningitis patient is normally seen in immunocompromised, but it can also be seen in immunocompetent. This patient was immunocompetent. There was too long a course. Normally, cryptococcal meningitis, if they are untreated for so long, they deteriorate. He was treated with fluconazole. There was no response to fluconazole in this patient. He kept on worsening. CSF India was negative. CSF cryptococcal antigen was also negative. And patient had retroperitoneal and mediastinal lymph node, which is not normally seen in cryptococcal meningitis. So cryptococcal meningitis is unlikely in this patient. Next, please. Coccidioidomycosis is a fungal infection which is seen in US. It is endemic in some areas of US, and the patient is from US. He was from endemic area. CSF was suggestive of chronic meningitis. Less than 1% of cases of coccidioidomycosis can have meningitis or CNS involvement. Normally it is pulmonary involvement. Normally it is so mild that even pulmonary involvement goes unnoticed and patient recovers spontaneously. But then they can present with CSF, this chronic meningitis like picture. Most importantly, CSF IgG was positive, and they say that if it is positive, then if in a relevant setting, you can be 90% sure that patient has got coccidioidomycosis. It can only be false positive if the serum levels are very high, and we do not have the serum levels in this patient. Or this patient was treated with fluconazole, which is drug of choice, for 2 good years, and he did not recover. He was a non-responder. Though that is possible, but then that is very rare. Duration of disease, despite not responding, is almost 5 years, still he is surviving. Normally, coccidioidomycosis meningitis people, they do not survive more than 2 years. Even if they are treated, the mortality is 30 to 40%. There were no eosinophils, that's a soft point, but then there were no eosinophils in CSF. That also slightly related point against coccidioidomycosis. Next, please. Now, non-infectious diseases. If we want to compare neurosarcoidosis, multiple sclerosis, Sjogren's syndrome, lupus erythematosus, and Behçet's disease, there are certain features which are peculiar to some of the diseases. Like orogenital ulcers are seen in Behçet's disease patient in 97%. This patient did not have it. There were no skin features of lupus. Calcium can be higher in neurosarcoidosis. Meningitis is common to almost all the things, but most importantly, the CSF glucose, though it is normal in almost all the other diseases except infections which are ruled out, CSF glucose can be lowered in 2/3 of cases of neurosarcoidosis. Serum CSF IgG can be raised. You can have oligoclonal bands over almost all the conditions. There are specific tests. Serum interleukin-2 can be positive in neurosarcoidosis, whereas ENA panel is positive in Sjogren's syndrome. It was done in our case, it was negative. ENA and dsDNA and ACLA were done, they were negative. And for Behçet's disease, CRP was negative, although HLA-B51 and BSG was not done. Next, please. As far as the neurosarcoidosis is concerned, patient had multifocal deficit. Almost 15% of patient can have exclusive neurological involvement. Patient had multifocal deficit. Patient had CSF suggestive of chronic meningitis. Clinical presentation of chronic meningitis is known. With low glucose, almost 2/3 of the patient, this is only one of few conditions where you can have low glucose, and it was consistently low. CSF A was high, negative doesn't rule out. At least one report we have said CSF A is high. The positive is suggestive in more than 50% cases about neurosarcoidosis. And most importantly, there was retroperitoneal multimediastinal lymphadenopathy. I don't know whether FDG PET was done in this patient or not, though the CD4 and CD8 ratio was done, which was not suggestive of FDG PET was done. Okay. Okay, that again favors that active lymph nodes or inflammatory lymph node elsewhere from the CNS, which has already been shown by radiologists. Next, please. If we talk about criteria of neurosarcoidosis, the definite neurosarcoidosis is when you have histological evidence, histopathological evidence, which we do not have right now. Earlier criteria in 1999 was later modified in 2006. Earlier criteria said signs of inflammation in the central nervous system, positive histology for a systemic lesion, which we do not have. Positive PIM test, it was not done in this case. Positive result for 2 of the following tests: gallium scan, which is normally not done these days because FDG scan is done. Serum ACE was done, which was normal, and chest radiology was done, which was positive in this case. Later, they were modified to either systemic evidence or 2 of the following things: gallium scan, FDB scan was done in place of gallium scan, which was positive. Just showed finding. Ball did not show the ratio of CD4 CD8 more than 3.5, which was suggestive. And was it done?
CSF CD4 CD8 ratio and
that was normal. That I showed. But okay. So both were negative in the CSF. The possible neurosarcoidosis is absence of histological confirmation, which we have at this point of time, and ruling out other inflammatory pathologies which we have reasonably done. So right now, it will be possible with, of course, if we count these two, you can also count it as probable neurosarcoidosis. Next, please. As far as the primary CNS angiitis is concerned, he had multifocal neurological deficit, which is normally seen in primary CNS angiitis. There was no evidence of systemic vasculitis, which is there. ESR was 22, which is a normally seen. ESR elevation is not seen in primary angiitis, significant ESR elevation, or was low CSF glucose. Once we have low CSF glucose, you cannot, basically you have to look for other etiologies. And of course, the retroperitoneal lymphadenopathy and mediastinal lymphadenopathy of this kind is normally not seen. Diffuse electromeningeal and pachymeningeal enhancement, persistent, consistent over last 4 years, is not as consistent in primary CNS angiitis as in sarcoidosis or the other inflammatory pathology. So it looks less likely. Next, please. Lymphoma, too long course without treatment. Lymphoma can also have retroperitoneal lymphadenopathy, but patient was not specifically treated, so they will not survive either primary lymphoma or secondary lymphoma. No change in meningeal enlargement over time. At least there should be some change, some worsening or some change. And you have calcification in the mediastinal node without treatment. That also favors relatively inflammatory, if my radiological belief approve that. Cavitatory lesions and hemorrhages on imaging in MR also are less likely to be seen in lymphoma. Next, please. So if we zoom in, my three diagnoses would be neurosarcoidosis, coccidioidomycosis, and primary angiitis of the CNS. And if I am to put my money and choose one, next slide, my diagnosis will be neurosarcoidosis, because of the reason that the poor CSF glucose, which we do not pay much attention to, is consistently low, which I have given a great importance in this case, because it clearly reminds us that I'm not something aseptic. I'm not, or if it is something non-infective, it can be only this, and we have reasonably ruled out non-infective etiologies. Second thing, you have retroperitoneal lymphadenopathy, you have mediastinal lymphadenopathy, and it is only for sarcoidosis out of all these conditions that smoldering, reluctant and remissions, fluctuations are possible, and patient can survive for all these 5 years. And at least you have one report of CSFAs which is elevated. Next, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sadhana, for excellent discussion. Any queries or questions to Dr. Sadhana?
Because the response in engineering the enhancement did improve after shorter
Possibility of two pathologies, sir. I thought of this thing that there can be coccidioidomycosis meningitis also, which possibly responded to fluconazole, and at the same time patient kept on having smoldering sarcoidosis. This possibility still cannot be ruled out. Otherwise, any other pathology along with sarcoidosis, treating unit as part of anything else we can.
The treatment was changed after biopsy, so could malignancy be a possibility?
Lymphoma, I have considered lymphoma, but then it's too long course. 5 years is not a usual time in which.
There was increased uptake in the mediastinal lymphomas.
That can be seen in lymphomas, metastasis also, but then in light of other clinical symptom and totality of picture would keep that.
Bilateral facial palsy, presence of a bilateral facial palsy with seizures, with a protracted course, would go more in favor of a non-infectious etiology than non-infectious inflammatory etiology than infectious. I think sarcoid is something which produces classically
in this case it was human.
He had
it was bilateral human.
I don't know whether, bilateral UMN and bilateral NMN is always.
Yeah, this is what input I have received from the treating unit. They can clarify it better whether it was.
Any questions?
These sarcoidosis bilateral.
So bilateral, it's difficult to make out human element unless you do specific tests.
Aries assessment, we don't have that.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I think the case is very well discussed and they worked up also. But the only thing, what was the Mantu in this case? I have done the Mantu test, a high liver thing, that was negative. Okay, so that is one point going in favor towards sarcoidosis. But neurosarcoidosis presentation is like this. It is not, the presentation will be little different. And I don't know what is the FNS report, the transbronchial, the EBUS was not done. It was just a transbronchial aspiration.
That report has not been given to me. Probably they will disclose it now.
I think that
It was purposefully, I think, held back, so they have not disclosed it.
and one more thing, because the patient was in USA for a very long time, apart from coccidoid or the histoplasma is another thing.
Yes.
We must have.
Yes.
I'm not very sure that Mantu has any value towards the GN center. This is more on this in this building.
Yeah, I think all the questions were probably answered. Dr. Sharma's question about the response in between, but we have to be reminded that one that it was a very long course, and the other thing is that was the time it was receiving steroids as well. So whether the response was to antifungals or antitubercular, but mostly like the thought is that it was more to steroids than anything else.
On the ESR and CRP were normal, so what do you come and what do you
They can be normal. They can be normal even in sarcoidosis, or they can be mildly elevated. So that is not a point against neurosarcoidosis especially.
We received first the CSF, then the FNSE from the one of the lymph node, bronchial and lung biopsies, and brain and meningeal biopsies. I am sure this CSF must be done by a very junior DM student, otherwise there is no question of having traumatic in neurology.
Usually it's junior as well.
The other thing was lymph node biopsy. You asked for the lymph node biopsy was mentioned, but findings were not mentioned. Sometimes we have to hide our weakness also. This was failure rather than something positive. This is the first bronchial biopsy, transbronchial endoscopic, and the lung biopsy. This time the diagnosis was sarcoidosis and tuberculosis, I think. And this is one of the blood clot from the lymph node. It's showing some respiratory cells, some blood, and it was negative. This is bronchial biopsy, clean. This is the respiratory mucosa, smooth muscles, underneath nothing. The lung biopsy was also most of his this traumatic hemorrhage, procedural hemorrhage. So probably it was a failure rather than a positive, because there are some uptake in the lymph node. Then we got the 4 biopsies. I must compliment the neurosurgeons. They have done a good job. They provided at least 4 biopsies, so that the pathologist cannot ask for the more biopsy. This is one of the durameter. It was okay, no pathology. This was labeled as the pia-arachnoid. There's a little bit of thickening, there's a little bit fibrosis, and occasional inflammatory cells, but nothing. This was the subcortical white matter. There was fragments of cortex. These are the neurons, and this is the white matter, multiple fragments. And this is the white matter, which was unremarkable. There is no demyelination, no lymphoma, nothing. But the right frontal biopsy, which consists of multiple fragments, some pathology is there in the meninges. There's some granuloma, there is some gliosis, and these are the granuloma. They are non-necrotizing granulomas. These are the giant cells, and there's some inflammation around these granulomas. A lot of fibrosis look like the healed granulomas, but no caseation necrosis. The higher magnification, these are the inflammatory cells. And this classical location of these granulomas, these are the vessels. They are around near the vessels. So what we call the paravascular granulomas. And in pathology, most of the time we have the differential in neuropathology, tuberculosis, fungal infections, or some kind of vasculitis, as you mentioned, and lastly the sarcoid. This is one of the case of sinus angiitis. I think in the first biopsy they diagnosed was sarcoidosis and tuberculosis, and then when they did this brain biopsy, the diagnosis shifted to the vasculitis.
You might see that in the form, but that form had been probably filled by public medicines.
No, this is not
That was the lymph node biopsy. The diagnosis was not of tuberculosis first time.
Oh, first time?
Yeah.
Okay. So your diagnosis was vasculitis.
Yeah.
When the
Both
brain
vasculitis and then one of the causes, of course, we had also.
Okay. So similarly, we are always worried about the vasculitis in the brain. It's very difficult to diagnose. You have the granulomatous reaction just like the sarcoidosis, but you have these vessels. You can get the vessel infiltration of this inflammatory cells in the vessels. This is in the meninges. Sometimes you get the hemorrhage around the vasculitis. So in this case, there was no vasculitis at least, but there was granulomatous reaction. Now the second is tuberculosis versus sarcoidosis. This is a very difficult situation. In tuberculosis, if you get the caseation necrosis, this helps in making the diagnosis of tuberculosis. The granulomas in tuberculosis are reticular poor, they are lymphocyte rich, and they are you can get granulomas anywhere. But in sarcoidosis, classically, caseation necrosis is absent. There may be some fibrinoid necrosis, but the granulomas are reticular rich, but they are very difficult situations. Most of the time, when we make the sarcoidosis, it turned out to be tuberculosis and vice versa. So this is not the granulomas are naked, but in this case there is some lymphocytic cuffing, but the granulomas are located near the vessels, and they have some inclusion in asteroid bodies or Schumann bodies, but they are not very specific or sensitive markers for the. If you get the AFV, that is the best to make it tuberculosis. And in sarcoidosis, these are the Schumann bodies, the calcified, these are the star-shaped bodies, what we call the asteroid bodies, but they are not 100%. In this case, these granulomas are non-necrotizing, there is no caseation, they are around the blood vessels, there is the stain for fungus, and tuberculosis were negative. So at least we can say that tuberculosis is possibility is lower down. These granulomas these are the admixture of the T and B cells, and of the T cells, mostly these CD4 helper cells, and there are few suppressor cells or cytotoxic cells. These granulomas are mostly in the meninges, leptomeninges, and here it looks one granuloma was deep in the parenchyma. It appears in the parenchyma, probably there is dipping around these Virchow-Robin spaces. This is another example, this is the blood vessel, there is some inflammation. So probably this granuloma is also around the blood vessels in the Virchow-Robin spaces. But when we did these CD8 markers, there are some cells in the brain. So probably there is some encephalitis component also. So based on the reticular rich granulomas around the blood vessels, lot of fibrosis, our diagnosis was neurosarcoidosis involving the leptomeninges and the brain parenchyma. The sarcoidosis is a multi-system disease, immune reaction, and the etiology is not known. Females are more commonly affected than the male, and the most common between 25 to 40 years of age. 75% of the cases are in this age group. Very rare before 15 years and in the older populations, and there are some racial and geographical differences. Cigarette smoking is supposed to be one of the protective mechanism. Dr. Professor Sharma, he is sitting here, he has published a lot of literatures. Why some people are involved more, there may be some genetic differences in the HLA or in some of these angiotensin converting enzyme genotypes. Some people are more commonly involved. The lung, hilar lymph node, skin, they are the most commonly involved. The cranial, that is, neurosarcoidosis is very rare. It comprises about 5 to 10% of the cases, and in the autopsy series, about 25% of the cases they are involved in the sarcoidosis. So probably many cases are asymptomatic, which are not detected during life. But the facial nerve involvement, and sometimes it is bilateral, optic nerve involvement, along with the aseptic meningitis. These are some of the very common manifestation of the neurosarcoidosis. The symptoms depends upon which part of the brain is involved. In one of the series, Dr. Sharma, he published 164 cases, and what he described as rare events in 54 cases. What he mean by rare events, that less than 10% of the cases were having these manifestation. And neurological involvement is mentioned in 13 cases, almost 10% of the cases. Two each have this facial nerve palsy, and it was sequential in both cases. In 2 cases were about 9th and 10th nerve palsy. I'm not sure what were the other cases of neurological involvement. This another rare event what he described is sometime you have these granuloma, which is necrosis. This is actually fibrinoid necrosis. As a pathologist, one should not confuse with the caseation necrosis. Many times, if I get these slides, I may call it as tuberculosis because of this kind of necrosis. But it is not actually necrosis. Now, neurosarcoidosis, the symptoms, depends upon the part, which part of the brain is involved, from the cranial nerve to meningeal, these brain parenchyma, spinal cord, and many times the vasculopathies, myopathies, in the peripheral neuropathy, small fiber type, large type of fiber type. So any system can be involved, and sometimes the symptoms are very vague, doesn't correspond to the part involved in the brain location. So sometimes people call the symptoms are known as the sarcoid fog. Because you see the list of the differential diagnosis, there's hardly any condition in the neurology which is not in the differential diagnosis. But people have suggested some criteria, what to call it, definitive, probable, or possible. The definitive is when you do the biopsy and it is positive in the CNS. The probable is when you have the systemic manifestation, brain is involved but the biopsy is negative, or you can demonstrate the granulomas in some other system. There are some signs of inflammation based on the other tests, and if both are not there, then it is a possible. Now, what investigation has to be done? All investigations are actually to find out which is the best site for the biopsy, because you have to demonstrate the granulomas. But there are some CSF examination, as in this case, there are some reversal of the CD4 to 8 ratios, ACE levels, and the neuroimaging MRI is the best to localize, and in the chest HR CT is the best. PET and all those conjunctival biopsies sometime when there is no other place to get the biopsies. The serum angiotensin converting enzymes, but the positivity varies, and there are some other conditions that can be raised. So it is not very definitive for the diagnosis of. So there is another enzyme that nowadays, this is also secreted by the macrophages. Then some of the other serum interleukin 2 receptors, and some of the classical radiological finding. Now, endobronchial biopsies, nowadays with this on-the-spot examination with the help of cytologist, this is nowadays is supposed to be the best, and a lot of publication from our own place, with the cytologist as well as the pulmonologist. But they are saying that this is the best because on the spot you can examine these smears. You can tell this material is sufficient. You have the granulomas in the materials. So this is probably the best. But there are some other tests which can be done. Montu test is a typical skin test. But Professor Sharma, he has, if it is a negative, it is good. But if in the case of sarcoidosis, if it becomes positive, then definitely it will indicate that the patient may be having associated tuberculosis. So that's good for the diagnosis in the associated tuberculosis, but because many times sarcoidosis is associated with the tuberculosis. Then the algorithm has been described what to do the first year, second year, but ultimately what you have to do the biopsy, and for the biopsy which one is the definitely the lifespan of these people, the patient is they have the lesser than the normal population, but only fatal in 5% of the cases, and the respiratory insufficiency or the involvement of the heart is the common cause of death. Treatment now, steroid, corticosteroid is the best first line treatment, but the recommendation are no patient should be treated based on the biomarkers. There should be some symptoms which demands the treatment. So treatment depends upon the symptoms, and this is the first line treatment, second line some of these disease modifiers nowadays, and rarely when there are some compression system symptoms, there can be some neurosurgical interventions, or whenever there is vasculitis, one can do the angioplasty. And these are the algorithm. All patients who doesn't respond to steroids or they are refractory to steroid, they can be put on the disease modifiers, immune modulators. Now, prognosis in the neurosarcoidosis is not fully known, but the good prognostic are the dural involvement, cranial nerve palsies, and the peripheral neuropathies. No enhancing brain lesions, but in this case, I think there are enhancing lesions. The bad prognostic are the enhancing lesion in the brain, leptomeningeal involvement, as in this case, and epileptic seizures. These are all the bad prognostic features, and the most of the patients they relapse while there is on tapering on these steroids. And sometimes the patient who are on the treatment and they worsen all of a sudden, one should suspect some JC viral infection in these patients. Etiology is not known. It is supposed to be the exaggerated immune-related, this mediated granulomatous reactions. Many etiology genetic, these are hormonal, more common in females, some infectious, even the mycobacterium tuberculosis has been implicated in the etiology. So the exact etiology is not known. It is a multifactorial disease. Just to conclude, the differential diagnosis are many, and a high index of suspicion is needed. Radiology is the most important to localize the lesions, because biopsy has to be taken from those lesions which should be positive. Ancillary investigations are supporting. I don't know whether really this case, this was the high index of suspicion or the patient came with the diagnosis. He was in America, but their diagnosis was definitely sarcoidosis, and somehow the second time they mentioned the vasculitis. But on average, any form from requisition from neurology, these are the 5-6 diagnoses on an average. So this time, I think they did a very good job.
That is neurosurgery.
So, Dr. Sharma, he mentioned in 98, is it sarcoidosis or tuberculosis? In 98 it was same, in 17 it was same. Today also it is the same, whether it is a tuberculosis or sarcoidosis. I think the pathologist, Dr. Siddharth Datta Gupta, who is the Bhisham Pitama of our department, he is the one who is the last consultant. So he knows everything, that this patient is having all the investigation. Those who are consulted later on, last, they are the best pathologists. Otherwise, they will never. I'm thankful to the Vaishali Suri Ranjit, who was in charge of CPC and the Department Neurology, Neuroradiology. Thank you. I must congratulate Dr. Sadhana for making the diagnosis. Probably they have, one of the hint was lymph node biopsy on the mediastinum.
No, it was, that hint was that it was not disclosed. That's the other thing.
So it was failure, not the positive finding.
Dr. Garima, what happened to the patient? Prognosis. Follow.
Fortunately for us, he kind of stabilized with asymptomatic treatment. Of course, like he was initial 2 years, his seizures were never diagnosed. He kept on throwing all these episodes and falling, here and there at work and all. So those are the minute things. In fact, I had a question from Professor Sultana, and he asked whether the onset was acute for. It was very difficult. I congratulate Dr. Anand Warrior, who actually sat down for 2-3 hours on phone with the patient's wife to try and ascertain what was the onset and the course of each of the episodes. So we were able to then determine that these were all episodes. Initially, the whole worsening was presented to us as a very progressive, chronic, insidious kind of a thing. So on symptomatic treatment, he had already improved a little when we were in the hospital. After that, while we were awaiting pathology reports, we had already given him pulse steroids again, and then discharged him on oral steroids. And on follow-up, we've added azathioprine and we've reduced the dose of steroids. And he's doing, I think he's doing a little better than when he was. His lower limb power has improved a little, and cognition, he's a little more responsive. He was very aggressive. So your point about a traumatic CSF was, I think, I will take that point in support of our residents, because we were, it was a miracle that we were able to manage this patient in the ward. It was very aggressive. We had to really sedate him sometimes. But those things, behavioral features have certainly come down. He's a lot more responsive on follow-up. So we put him on long-term immunosuppression, and we'll see. He's improved a little.
He was on steroid
And then they were tapered off. They were hoping.
You see, I am still little puzzled. Why you was got two egos in your institute. You have one, Valeria has one. So why EBOS was not done? That this is because not EBOS. It was a finish. They said it was a TPM. You said because EBOS very rarely you fail to get it. It is really real time under ultrasound you do it. Whoever has done it, I think maybe I am a bit upset about that part. Because it should have been, some tissue should have been updated. Not technology, because it is a real time. And then second thing about the treatment part, you see the sarcoidosis unfortunately is not a very simple disease. Even mediastinal or the pulmonary sarcoidosis, when you treat with the steroid, the things recover and then they don't totally disappear. So maybe with the CNS these things maybe still, and I'm sure the patient still recover. We have already updated Pathology also. Not that the patient will never be totally cured, I think. He may still.
He was taking steroid in the States, but he consulted doctor in India also. So
Yeah, actually they
some put him on ATT and they don't want to stop in between. He took straight with ATT for the
He was given in the US for 5 months.
India, Apollo Hospital or something. He was in India taking ATT. He doesn't want to stop.
I take this opportunity to thank you very much, sir, and congratulate Professor Sardana for this wonderful discussion on